All right, guys. So as predicted, I told you this would happen, and it's happening. It looks like the top military officials, the generals, they are turning on Pete Hegseth at a record clip. So the most important part of the story actually is not even the story itself. It's the outlet that the story is in. Because what that tells you is which generals are fucking sick of it. So this is reported in the Washington Times, which is a far-right outlet. So in other words, even hardcore conservative generals, MAGA-approved generals, are going to the Washington Times and going, nah, dog. Nah, this is not going to work out. All right, so here's what they say. He lost us. Generals and senior officers say trust in Hegseth has evaporated. Secretary's critics worry Pentagon at risk of enduring damage amid firings, resignations, and early retirements of high-ranking staff. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has lost the trust and respect of some top military commanders with his public grandstanding, widely seen as unprofessional, and the personnel moves made by the former cable TV host, leading to an unprecedented and dangerous exodus of talent from the Pentagon, said current senior military officers and current and former Defense Department officials. Numerous high-ranking officers painted Mr. Hegseth's September 30th speech to hundreds of generals and admirals gathered at the Marine Corps base Quantico in Virginia as a turning point in how his leadership style, attitude, and overall competency are viewed in the upper echelons of the U.S. Armed Forces. Quote, "It was a massive waste of time. If he ever had us, he lost us," one current Army general told the Washington Times. The Quantico speech, described by other sources as embarrassing and theatrical to a degree that is beyond our institution, seemed to crystallize beliefs about Mr. Hegseth that had taken root among some senior officers, including the view that the secretary operates with a junior officer's mentality that has led him to micromanage policies about issues such as military facial hair standards and press access to the Pentagon, sometimes at the expense of the much broader portfolio of a typical defense secretary. Quote, "Mainly what I'm seeing from him are not serious things," a current senior officer said. "It's why did this service member tweet this, or internal politics and drama. That's mostly what I see." Jesus Christ, what a fucking loser Pete Hegseth is. Holy shit. Mr. Hegseth clearly does not care about such criticism. At Quantico, he told any officer who disagreed with his priorities and his laser-like focus on a return to what he calls the military warrior ethos to resign. Some analysts are quick to point out that military recruiting has surged since Mr. Hegseth took his post earlier this year. Supporters cite that as clear evidence that Mr. Hegseth's approach is resonating with at least a subsection of young Americans, and in the process is strengthening the armed forces. Separately, some defense industry sources stress that the Pentagon under Mr. Hegseth's leadership is driving the development and fielding of small tactical drones in huge numbers, among other successes. By the way, the increase of people joining the military, that's actually a terrifying thing, because these are probably the same goons that are joining ICE. It's fucking like Proud Boys and white nationalists and like KKK assholes and people who now see, oh, I get to like be totally unprofessional and fuck people up and shit on minorities. Oh, I'm down for that. High-level sources said they believe Mr. Hegseth is simultaneously doing deep damage to the military, both from a public relations standpoint and structurally behind the scenes. That may not be fully apparent until months or even years from now. They say Mr. Hegseth's insistence that the Pentagon will embrace a color and gender-blind meritocracy is at odds with reality inside the Defense Department, which President Trump has given the secretary title the War Department. They argue that the firings, early retirements, and resignations have amassed over the past 8 months will fundamentally weaken the military. Across the services, we are bleeding talented generals and flag officers for what appears to be the opposite of a meritocracy, another current senior officer said. There are people being held back from promotions or being fired or removed from sometimes unknown reasons, often favoritism or just simple relationships. The officer stressed that there is strong support for some of the policy changes Mr. Hegseth laid out at Quantico, including the tougher fitness standards, reforms to the Pentagon Inspector General's office, and changes to how complaints against officers are filed and investigated, with an understanding that in the ranks, sometimes false or trumped-up accusations of racism, for example, have been used to unfairly damage careers. The delivery of those policy changes was widely viewed as unprofessional. The theater of it all is below our institution, the officer said. Several of these changes are being made already by the services, and they could be made by any secretary. They don't have to be announced on a stage in public in this grandstanding kind of way. It seems like it's all about one guy here, the officer said of Mr. Hegseth, giving voice to a common refrain expressed by multiple sources. The sources interviewed for this article were granted anonymity. Okay, so you guys get the gist of it. Basically, they fucking despise Pete Hegseth. Now, here's the other scary part of it, though. I don't know if Pete Hegseth is the one actually, calling the shots. I mean, I know Trump is really calling the shots, but there's been some evidence, coming out that it's actually Stephen Miller who controls everything when it comes to foreign policy. Remember that group chat on the Yemen thing that leaked because they accidentally invited a journalist in there, and it looked like it was Stephen Miller who was saying to them, like, oh yeah, go ahead, bomb Yemen, because that's what the big guy's saying. And none of the other people heard it from the big guy, but Stephen Miller was like, yeah, go ahead and do it. He's telling me that you guys can go and do it. So it looks like Miller is sort of like the king's hand, to use a Game of Thrones analogy. And honestly, that's even more terrifying than Pete Hegseth doing it. Because Pete Hegseth, he's just an idiot, right? He's just a moron. And he's self-obsessed, and he's incompetent. And so if he gets his way, it's like, well, what are they doing? They're fucking putting like, a makeup room inside his office in the fucking Pentagon, right? Like he's out there saying, we're against wokeness. Like he's just a dunce. He's just a dunce. He can't actually do anything that's organizationally sound. And so you need somebody smarter than him. And Stephen Miller steps in, and that motherfucker is just straight up evil incarnate. That motherfucker is like a demon in the flesh. And so that's the scary thing. The other thing that's kind of scary is to have a lot of these people who clearly are reasonable being fired or having to step down or whatever. That scares me because we don't want to have the military remade in the image of MAGA. Because then when Trump keeps ordering these illegal things, everybody will just follow along and do it. And so what we need is, as I've said before, when it comes to ICE, when it comes to the cops, when it comes to the military, we need infiltration. We need people that are a last line of defense from within the institutions that fucking find a way to reduce the crazy. One thing that one veteran said is, when you're ordered to do something wildly illegal, don't do it and then just tell your higher-ups that you did it, right? And that's actually sort of brilliant if you think about it. Like, that's like the easiest way out of this shit, is to just, when you're ordered to do something wrong or bad or illegal, don't do it, then say, yes, sir, we did it. And they're fucking jackasses. They're not going to check. They don't know, right? And so I'd rather have more good people in there than no good people in there, but I think the trend is towards that. And a lot of Republicans are saying, oh, this is only happening because Hegseth wants these people to fucking work out and not be fat anymore. And it's like, number one, that's not true. But number two, even if that were one of the reasons they're doing it, good. If you're like a fucking top level general, you make strategic decisions. Like, your job is not to be fucking doing push-ups and doing sit-ups and doing chin-ups and like being physical out there and like hand-to-hand combat with what, fucking ISIS? Like, what are we doing here? No. Like, your job, you're the brains behind the operation. And so to make that guy do some physical work, it's like, I don't know, I'd rather have a very intelligent, out of shape general than a fucking like jacked, fucking roided up juice head idiot who can, run a mile in a short amount of time, but can't fucking make a strategic decision to save his fucking life. So Hegseth he's so obsessed with the optics, right? And this is a guy, he's a fucking alcoholic. This is a guy, remember those text messages that came out where his own mom was berating him for being a shitty person because he, like, I don't know, not only is an alcoholic, but there were allegations that he like assaulted his former wife or something, or girlfriend or something. Like, this is a guy with fucking problems, bro. This is a guy with fucking problems. But the reason Trump picked him is so that he has a yes man. That's the whole point, is like, oh, who's going to be the biggest bitch to me? You're in, right? And so, but this is a big deal. The fact that we're not even a year in, and basically all of the top brass in the military are going, fuck this guy and the horse he rode in on, that really does not bode well for them being able to accomplish all the things they want to accomplish. Because they're sort of forgetting, like, the humanity 101 and the psychology 101 of being a leader. That, like, you have to get people to like you and respect you or fear you or, like, just want to help you and do what you want them to do. And clearly he's failing at that. So it says a lot that this was in the Washington Times, a right-wing outlet. And so it's right-wing generals going, really? This is what we're doing? This fucking idiot? This is what we're doing? So I hope that this is further evidence that everything that they're trying fucking falls apart, because we need that. We need that desperately. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.